across a recent article that saddened my heart. And I thought we would get in here today because if I came across it, I'm sure you've come across it, or at least some of you are probably even feeling it. And here's what the article had to say. Many Canadians resigned to never getting out of debt. Ouch.
That's really sad.
It hurts my heart. It hurts my heart because here's the truth. When you don't believe you can do something, guess what you don't do? You don't do it. You won't go out and activate it. You won't go out and achieve it. And so if you don't believe you can become debt-free, guess what you're never going to do? You're never going to become debt-free. Zig Ziglar said it best. I mean, he says, if you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. Or whether you think you can't or you think you can, you're absolutely right. And this article goes on to say that, let's see here, with household debt on the rise, many Canadians and Americans are convinced they will be in debt for the rest of their life. A recent poll conducted by for Manulife found that 45% of Canadians report spending more than they earn, and 40% doubt they will ever be debt-free. Almost half of Canadians doubt they'll ever be debt-free. While almost half of Canadians fear that they'll be indebted for life, 67% assume everybody is in the same situation. So the Joneses assume that you're going to be in debt for the rest of your life. Further, the percentage of Canadians who are unable to save any of their after-tax income has increased by 19% compared to just under a year ago, as well as the percentage of non-mortgage related debts have risen 54% compared to about 46% about 10 months ago. Additional non-mortgage related debt has been driven by credit card debt, and according to the release from a New Webster, BC credit counseling company, they found now that the average debt load for Canadians is roughly about $30,000 in unsecured debt: credit cards, car loans, potentially student loans, and lines of credit, that type of stuff. Non-mortgage, unsecured debt, non-mortgage debts, and what they found is up. Unsecured debt is up from $12,000. 20 years ago, the average Canadian had about $12,000 in debt. Now we're about $30,000, just over 20 years ago. I mean, that's the beginning of the century there for most of us. So with so many Canadians relying on credit cards and other means of lending, the stress of being in debt has simply become a normal part of life. Ugh. Broke is normal. You want to be weird. All right, and carrying overwhelming amounts of debt and having limited means to pay them down is understandable. That many consider it is even impossible situation to resolve. Many have lost hope and believe that they will never win with money. And
that's the saddest part right there, that so many people have lost hope.
That they've lost hope.
Yeah, that's so sad.
Hope deferred makes the heart sick. How many people have anxiety, overwhelmed, frustration? They're frustrated. Their marriages are hanging on by the fringe. They're mad and yelling at the kids. They're taking it out on the kids because of money fights, money problems, money struggles. Right?
Yeah.
And the overwhelming majority of Canadians, 94% roughly, agree that the average household carries too much debt. So we all know we have way too much debt. I mean, 94%, I mean, you might as well just call that 10 out of 10 people right there. Know that we have way too much debt. Yet we feel hopeless, and we feel like we'll never, ever get ahead. And so, I don't know what advice you've heard lately, but I came across an article that gave us, that really was trying to help us. I get what they were trying to do, but they gave us some really bad advice as to what to do when it came to paying off debt. Here's the truth. You can become debt-free. I've done it. Jen's done it. We've helped many, many people do that. It is very possible to become debt-free in this day and age, regardless of what media tells you, regardless of what people want to write for, clickbait and, just getting ratings up. The truth is that you're not hopeless. There's no situation out there that can't help, that we can't help get debt-free, become debt-free, and really start to live that life and build wealth. And as I was talking to someone yesterday, the goal is to live generously. The goal is to become so wealthy that we fund every mission we want to fund, that we fund every opportunity that we want to fund. But the majority of Canadians, they'll continue to struggle because, as that article said, we're hopeless. We don't think there's a way out. And so as I was reading an article this past week, it was giving me tips on how to become debt-free. And the truth is it was really bad advice. And so today we want to talk to you about bad advice, bad ways to become debt-free, stuff that's not really going to help you become debt-free. It's common wisdom. It was out there when I was walking this process many years ago myself, and it's still out there today. And I can't tell you how many times we've come across people that have used, what we're going to talk about today, that have tried one of these methods, and guess what? 2 to 5 years later, they're back in debt. Because the truth is, getting out of debt isn't about mathematics. We try and figure it out mathematically. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of mathematics in it. Maybe about 20% of the problem is mathematics. The other 80% is what we call the human factor. It's you. It's all about you, and you're the reason why you're not debt-free. You're the reason why you're in debt. The great news is you're the reason why you can become debt-free. When you look back at the mirror, the person looking back at you, that's the person that can empower you to live that life, to become debt-free. And so let's talk about some common advice, some common myths around becoming debt-free, that if you do this, we can almost guarantee that you'll be back in debt. So let's start with number 1 here. It's called a consolidation loan. Now, for those of you who don't fully understand a consolidation loan, basically what a consolidation loan is you're taking your high interest debts, you're taking your low interest debts, your high, amounts of debts, your low amounts of debts, and you're consolidating it all into one debt. Now, the way people preach this, the way people kind of sell this is they say, by doing that, you've got one payment. You've only got to focus on one thing. And consolidations generally, they'll work in one of 2 ways. The first way is they'll take your high interest, your low interest, and they'll kind of get you a middle ground interest. So you've got a bunch of high interest credit cards, 19%, 29%, maybe a couple low interest loans, 6%, 7%, and they'll find you a middle ground, 14% or whatever. The second way they do this is they'll take your high interest payments, your low interest payments, they'll combine them all together, and they'll extend the payment period. Which means now what would have taken maybe 3 or 4 years to pay off is now going to take 6 years to pay off. It's going to cost you a lot more in interest. And it's going to cost you a lot more in really in time and getting out of debt. Now, what we have found, the secret sauce to getting out of debt is about motivation, momentum. The more progress you can make doing it, the faster you can become debt-free. Obviously, the less you're going to pay in interest. That just makes sense. But what we found is people who stay in debt too long start to lose motivation. When it starts to take you 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 15 years, that's when you start to feel hopeless because you're fighting this big battle way too long. And so consolidation loans, even though mathematically they make it sound sexy, by saying, you just got to deal with one payment, what we have found is consolidation loans are dumb. They don't work. They keep you in debt longer than you need to be in debt. They cost you more money than they need to cost you. As well as, let's be honest, it's not about mathematics. It's about the mindset, habits, and behaviors. And if we can get that dialed in, you will become debt-free a lot faster. And so number 1, consolidation loans are a bad idea. Now, Jen, what else do we have? What other advice is out there today? What other advice is prevalent that people are being told to do?
So another bad thing that people are being told to do is to just go ahead and file for bankruptcy. And while bankruptcy doesn't have the same stigma that it once used to, there's not as much shame attached to it. People are more public to talk about it. It wasn't always that way, but also there's a lot of things that a bankruptcy entails. There's things that it includes, things that cannot be included when you file for bankruptcy, but there's also the emotional component too, and that's something people don't think about. They don't consider how this is going to actually affect them emotionally. And when you have something that affects you emotionally, it actually translates into your finances and even just how you function in your day-to-day life. So there can be a trauma associated with it. Not everybody will feel that way, but some people will. And a bankruptcy is one of those things that follows you around. Like that sucker is on your record for 6 to 7 years here in Canada. And that's, it holds you back from doing things too, right? Even though Mike and I aren't all about borrowing money, there are cases like if you're going to buy a house that most people can't do it for cash, and so they will have a mortgage. But when you have a bankruptcy, it actually prevents you from being able to go ahead and move forward with your life. So let's say you learned your lesson through your bankruptcy and it was, a terrible experience, but you've got some education and you're applying it and you're ready. A bankruptcy holds you back from being able to move forward with your life. And so you're then, either stuck renting somewhere that you don't want. A bankruptcy is sometimes something you need to disclose to a new employer. And so depending on what field of work you're in, something that is personal and you think is private actually becomes public knowledge. And so that's something to consider as well. Like it really holds you back, but has other implications as well. In Canada, you can file bankruptcy 3 times, which seems ludicrous, but you can. And the second time you file, it will actually stay on your record for 14 years. So again, hindering you from being able to make some progress and apply the lessons, the things that we teach in how to avoid that bankruptcy. It keeps you really strapped in slavery to that choice for a longer period of time. And it also doesn't address your habits and behaviors. Yeah, you can go and you can file, you meet with the trustee, go through the process, but have you changed your behaviors, the habits, the things that brought you to that place in the first place, right? Like what was it that drove somebody to a bankruptcy? If you don't have to address it and say, okay, I need to learn more about, having some money aside, setting for an emergency fund or for house repairs or whatever it is, those habits haven't changed. When we continue to spend and accumulate debt or borrow, finance certain items, we're not changing our habits and we're doomed to follow the same path again, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And you mentioned it has become normal, or it's become less of a stigma.
Yeah, less shameful.
Less shameful. And really what's happened is it's become normal. And the problem with normal is average. And again, normal is broke. And for the majority of Canadians, normal sucks. Right? And so you want to strive to be weird. I know as a kid being weird was awful, but as an adult, it is great to be financially weird. And let's talk about the third piece of advice I saw in this article here. And it was called a remortgage. And the idea was to remortgage your unsecured debt, your credit cards and all that stuff into your secured debt, which was your home. And that's just a bad idea. You never want unsecured debt mixed with secured debt. It really just does not set you up well. And what happens is most Canadians and Americans as well are starting to use their homes as ATMs, withdrawing cash from it. And they spend their life doing this. And by the time they get to retirement and all that stuff, guess what they still have? They still have a mortgage. And, retirement years, I tell people all the time, if you do it right, retirement years are going to be your best years. But for the majority of people, we aren't doing it right. And they're forced to sell their homes. And there's less cash available, less liquid cash available, less assets available because we spent our whole life either doing a remortgage or borrowing off the house for this. Really what happens is every 5 years, and there's certain people out there that make a living off of this, every 5 years they just reconsolidate debt. The problem with this, and we've mentioned it at work, the problem with every real solution here is it doesn't focus on your habits or behaviors. And the truth is your habits, your behaviors, your mindset are sabotaging you. They're either sabotaging you to not winning with finances, or they're empowering you to win with your money. And the problem with most Canadians right now, and most Americans in general, is we've got 20, 30, 40 years of bad habits and behaviors, and we think there's a simple mathematical equation is going to fix that. And so if you want to be weird, if you want to be like the minority here and win with money, remortgage is not your solution. A bankruptcy is not your solution. A consolidation loan is not your solution. What do you need to do? What do you want to get into hand here? Well, the first thing is we want to talk about the mindset. If you want to win with finances, if you want to become debt-free, you've got to change the mindset from I don't think I can to I absolutely can. Because until you change your mindset, like Zig said, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're absolutely right. And there comes a different focus when we start to believe that we can actually achieve something. And what happens here, think about it this way. If you've ever, I'm going to assume most of you drive, but when you're driving and you're going towards that light, where I live, we've got these signs that kind of say stop, 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 or walk, walk, walk. Whenever you see that hand go, we have two different reactions. If you're like me, you press the gas pedal down because you're going to make it through the light, right? I believe I'm going to make it through that light. And so my actions, I take action accordingly. And then you got the other people, sometimes like my wife, who all of a sudden they see that thing happen, they let go of the gas. I'm like, honey, it's green. You still got to drive towards it. But they believe they aren't going to make it through the light, and so they start to take action accordingly. It's the same idea with our finances, where you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're going to take actions to support that belief system. So evaluate your belief system here. What are you telling yourself? What stories are going on in your head here? Because your stories are going to fuel your actions. Okay, and that's going to fuel your actions into either getting this done and moving forward here, or to staying stuck. And that's the only reason why you would ever stay stuck in life, is because you don't believe you can do it. That's it. There isn't one situation that we come across that we can't help and move forward. That's just hands down it. The next thing is you got to be focused and you got to be intentional. Focused on the goal of what you want to achieve and what you want to see happen. And then you got to be intentional about making intentional decisions to supporting that goal and that focus. And if you'll follow these little tips here, you will absolutely become weird. I mean, debt-free.
The new normal.
The new normal. Really weird. And again, start to build wealth. You'll live a life that most of your friends and most of your family and really most of Canadians will envy, because you're not stuck in the rat wheel of paying off debt. Hey guys, Mike Croft here. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead and hit subscribe, as well as check out some other content from the show.